Welcome to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's show. And thank you for being a great audience of people who love to communicate. I appreciate your emails through all the different social media channels. I will remind you that my favorite social media is Instagram and Facebook. I'd rather see your face, get to know you that way. While I do Twitter and I do tweet, I don't always live tweet, and I definitely don't do a lot of conversations on Twitter. So if you want to connect with me in a more personal way, please find me on Facebook or Instagram. Okay, so today's show is how your dreams can give you power. We've got back Kelly Sullivan Walden. We did a show earlier called The Hidden Meaning in Your Dreams. It was episode number 25. I don't think you need to go back and listen to that one if you haven't heard it already, but it is a great compliment. So today's show is just chock full of really cool stuff about dreams. Kelly's awesome and I love her. So what else to tell you? The 30-day manifestation challenge is almost over. I'm not quite sure when we're doing it again, but just a reminder, you can buy all the audios to use whenever you want, forever, and you never have to be part of the group if you don't want to be. And the best way to find that is jjflazanes.com. Go to blog, and the link is under the post about prayer versus meditation. That's just like the easiest way to get it. And what's coming soon is also a way for you to sign up for a free coaching session. I'm going to be doing a contest, or once a month, you can sign up and apply basically to have a free coaching session that will be recorded and aired here on the podcast. So that's the catch. The catch is that it's not just a private conversation, although it is recorded, so I can edit out anything super personal that you don't want to have aired on the show. But we will basically be doing just a coaching session, and you can sign up for that, and I will let you know when that's available. But in the meantime, you can check back on jjflazanes.com or invisiblefitness.com, because that's where there'll be an image that will let you fill out the form and apply for that contest. All right? So in the meantime, enjoy today's show. Today's show, how your dreams can give you power. We have back Kelly Sullivan Walden. I'm so excited. We barely got through the 30 minutes. Like, there's so much information. I mean, we barely got through it. We didn't have enough time to even scrape the surface of this conversation. So I just want to remind you who she is. She is a best-selling author and dream therapist. Kelly Sullivan Walden is on a mission to awaken the world to the power of dreams. She's the author of 8 books, including I Had the Strangest Dream, It's All in Your Dream, Dream Oracle Cards, and what currently just got launched, The Chicken Soup for the Soul, Dreams and Premonitions. She's been on Dr. Oz, Ricky Lake, Bethany, The Real, and Hallmark's Home and Family Show, and she is an expert in dreams. Welcome back to the show, Kelly.
Thank you so much, JJ. It's so much fun to be back with you.
Okay, so last time we talked about the hidden meaning in your dreams, and we barely got to like 5 different dreams. So first, for anyone that hasn't heard that show and you're just getting started with us in this conversation, I would recommend that you go back and listen to that show, because we're going to build on it in this one. That was called The Hidden Meaning in Your Dreams. And today we're talking about how dreams can give you power. Let's first talk about the difference between, because I would consider anything that you remember, anything, a situation in your mind, like a nightmare is still a dream, right? It's just a negative dream.
Right. Well, I actually don't even think that nightmares are negative. It just means that it's revealing a place where you're out of balance or where there's some stuck energy. It's unpleasant, that's for sure. But I believe every single dream that we have is a positive dream, is operating on behalf of our greatest good and helping us to be healthier, more balanced people. So yes, they're all good, and but it's not negative. It's just because it can, if we allow it, have incredibly healing, transformational properties in it if we know how to dig.
Okay, so nightmares aren't necessarily negative, but they are scary. And what I have experienced, it's this really interesting thing. So I want to see what your take is on it. When I have chocolate before I go to bed, I always have a negative dream, a negative nightmare, which is scary, or I want to cry, or I wake up, or I'm crying in my dream and then I wake up crying. Like, it's always really traumatic. I noticed when, not traumatic, but I'll have a negative dream pretty much every time I have chocolate around like after 6 o'clock in the evening.
Really? Oh, interesting.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think, everything we put in our bodies is going to affect our moods, is going to affect our heart, our spirit, our mind, our everything. So what happens outside affects what's inside, and vice versa. So I know, especially with people that have really sensitive systems, this is probably absolutely true for everybody, but um, anything that you put in your body that's going to caffeinate you, or that's going to get you tipsy, or that's got a lot of sugar in it, it's going to throw your blood sugar slightly out of whack, and that will be reflected in your dream. There's a whole conversation I had with Dr. Manny Alvarez, from he's the medical doctor on Fox News, and we were talking about how most people think it's good to have a nightcap, to have a little glass of wine or something before you go to sleep because it makes you drowsy. Sure, it can help you go into sleep well because you get sleepier, but it does throw off your blood sugar. And when your blood sugar gets thrown off, as you know, and I'm sure the people listening know, that like, your blood sugar gets thrown off, that kicks in your adrenals, and that gives your mind the impression that something scary is going on. And so that it definitely sets up a ripple effect that's not pleasant. So you need to know yourself, you need to know your body. I mean, some people can handle chocolate at some point after noon, and they're fine, and some people don't. Some people do get affected deeply by that. I mean, I think that you're in such excellent shape that any one little Frito that you have would throw your whole being off. I'm imagining.
Well, well, it's interesting you talk about the wine. I mean, I drink wine and it doesn't happen with wine. It only happens with
Mm,
chocolate. So I think it must be the caffeine in the chocolate.
yeah, yeah.
But that's I just thought I'd throw that out there. So today's show is how your dreams can give you power, and I'm going to take a stab and say the first thing we need to do is to remember our dreams, right? In
Yeah.
order for us, yeah.
The idea is that, one thing that I love this statistic, because to me this speaks volumes. When I was going to hypnotherapy school, we learned that, according to the American Hypnosis Association, our conscious mind represents about 12% of our mind's power, versus our subconscious mind being 88% of our mind's power. And it's what runs us. It's like the hard drive behind the computer that really is responsible for everything. And most of us aren't related to that at all. We're really just related to the 12% that we access more easily in our waking state. When we pay attention to our dreams, because our dreams come from our subconscious, our other than conscious mind, and if we can remember a dream, in some ways, it's really connecting the dots, bridging the gap between the conscious mind and subconscious, and in some way giving us access to an enormous amount of our own mind's power that would otherwise be lost on us. So it's in some ways it makes us smarter. If you ever saw, I mean, this is kind of an exaggerated perspective, but there's a movie that came out years ago called Phenomenon with John Travolta. Did you ever
Yeah.
see that? And
Yes.
Kira Sedgwick.
Yes.
So in the movie, John Travolta gets struck by lightning and he becomes like an enlightened person. And there's a moment in the movie where there's some scientists that are looking at brain scans, and basically they say, well, he just has access to all of his mind, whereas most of us are only using a fraction of what we're capable of. He's simply is maximizing his potential. It's not different than what any of us would be like if our brains woke up. So to me, even though that was a movie and it was kind of this magical perspective, it really does point to the purpose of paying attention to dreams. In many ways, it gives us access to more of our own functionality, capability, wisdom, even genius than we ever would be able to access in our ordinary conscious mind. So it does give us access to our own power. It's power, wisdom, guidance that has our name on it. It's ours. It's like an inheritance that only we can access, and yet most of us don't. And most of our problems are problems not because they're really inherently problems. It's just a lack of perspective, a lack of creativity, a lack of wisdom, that we can look upon those situations. When we have more awareness, we look at something that used to be a problem and we go, oh, that's not a problem, that's really simple. So dreams and dream work, paying attention to dreams, gives us access to this wisdom that we can't even fathom in our ordinary state that could help us. And there's so many inventions that are actually a real grounded example of this. I mean, the sewing needle came to Elias Howe, the guy that created the sewing machine and started the Industrial Revolution. It came to him in a dream. In his waking life, he was trying really hard to figure out how to get this sewing thing to work, the sewing machine work. He couldn't figure it out in his waking mind, but his dream had access to so much more wisdom than his waking mind did. So he woke up because he remembered that dream. He was able to transfer that wisdom from his subconscious mind into his conscious mind, into his waking world, and thus here's the Industrial Revolution, and we're all wearing clothes right now as a result of a dream that one man had years ago. And there's a million other examples of that.
Oh, I'm sure there are. And you just reminded me of my own. When I moved from New York to California, like you, I was part of the entertainment industry, even though I also was training and I had actually was director of education for New York Sports Club. Before I left New York, I had my training resume pretty high up and I was pretty well known within sort of the New York Sports Club, sort of, New York City in the heart of it. And when I moved here, I did come out to do some entertainment work and I kind of wanted to put that life aside and then I did, but I didn't want to do something that wasn't meaningful to me. Long story short, I was sort of trying to find my way of how I was going to have my life. Like literally, like how do I want my life to be? What do I want to be doing? I have these two great resumes that don't really work together so easily. I have a great acting resume and a great personal training resume. And I like literally had that heart painstaking question of how am I going to make this work? And it came to me in a dream.
And what was the dream? What did you
The
see?
dream was to open. There was a company I'd started. I was working for in New York, and it was a personal training company. And I had the dream to franchise their business here in LA and to open up an LA branch, which would give me the freedom to do both the acting at the same time as well as the personal training, and to own my own business, make my own hours, make my own schedule, market everything at the same time.
Mm.
If I'm gonna put so anyway, but it did come to me in a dream, and I woke up.
Wow.
It was February of 2002. I remember exactly when it was, and I woke up and I was like, like how? Because I kept asking that question. So to translate that
Yes.
into, because for me, that was a very vivid, but I had a really
Mhm.
strong yearning, a
Mhm.
very, very life and death kind of like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? Strong yearning that gave me that answer in my sleep. And I honestly can't remember if anything else that strong or
Mm.
dramatic has come to me since then. Do you think it matters? Like the sewing, like the sewing needle sounds like a really dramatic thing because there was such a need. Do you
Yes.
think it matters that people can get answers depending on how strong their desire is or how strong?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's just like in life. I mean, dreams kind of work the same way things do in life. When we really want to know something, when we're really hurting and we're on our knees and we're saying, please, God, universe, spirits, angels, whoever you are, help me with X. If we sincerely ask, we're sincerely answered. And there's no better time to ask those questions than right before we go to sleep. It's like I've done this too. I've said dreams, I please give me an answer to X, Y, and Z. And then I've said, no, forget that. Just fix it. This is one of the stories I write about in It's All in Your Dreams, is me setting a declaration and then me just making a demand on my dreams. Like, I don't want you to just give me a breadcrumb. I want you to just figure it out, fix it. I want to wake up with this whole situation resolved. And it did. It was my relationship. We were having a difficult moment. And I woke up and it was like we had been completely fixed, rewired, rebooted in our sleep, and things were different after that dream. So I mean, I think we're just barely scratching the surface of what we're capable of, what our dreams can help us with, and it does help to have a very strong desire. And we don't necessarily have that every single day when everything's going fine. We still could pay attention to our dreams. It's like training wheels. It's important to pay attention to dreams, I believe, on ordinary days, so that when you really need them, you've got that muscle in place that can really catch the dream when it counts the most. If you're not paying attention to dreams at all and one day you're like, okay, please help me, and then you get the dream that you're asking for, but you slept in too long or you woke up too fast, then you might have gotten that dream that would win you the lottery or have you meet the man or woman of your dreams or get your body in shape, and you missed it because you weren't in the practice of it. So it's all of that works together.
I love hypnotherapy first and foremost, and I didn't mention that on the first show that we did together because of that 12% versus 88%, right? So like our wisdom, our inner knowing, our inner habits and belief systems really lives in that 88% of our subconscious mind. And I love that dreams are kind of our way of being our own therapist to work on it, to talk to it. I mean, obviously you can do it in meditation, you can do it I get downloads from my inner being, so to speak, or from the universe when I'm rollerblading and I've got music in my ears. And all of a sudden I'm this clear, open channel that gets all this information because like all the other systems are too busy to get in the way.
Yeah.
But I love that dreams, it's such a personal, it's like using that sleep state to allow yourself to hear your subconscious mind. So what we're talking about right now is you answering the question. I love that. And do you recommend that if someone does have a question that they write it down,
Yeah.
they speak it out, or they do a visualization about the problem, asking their subconscious mind to give them the answer while they dream? Like, what's the process?
Right. You could, I mean, there's yes to all of the above. I always think it's a great idea to write down an intention because then by the time you verbalized it and put it into a succinct sentence, then you really know what it is you want. So instead of just help me with my relationship, well, help me with my relationship to who and what part of my relationship and what part. So sometimes it helps to journal a bit about what the issue is and then identify what it is you really need help with. What is the missing piece? And often if you're really engaged in that process, it's kind of like, that saying, God helps those who help themselves. Like you take one step in the direction of what you're wanting, and then it takes 10 steps back toward you. So it helps to clarify. I would say write it down. My sister Shannon would say, write it down on a piece of paper and put it under your pillow. Like, because then, and I think it's a great idea because when you're sleeping, your hand will sometimes touch the little piece of paper. It'll graze it, and it'll subconsciously remind you, oh yeah, that's the question I'm working on. So I think that's kind of a fun way to do it, to be able to. I mean, the name of this show is about the power of your dreams, right? It's about your hidden power.
Yes.
So yeah, you've got the answers. There's not one question that you don't already have the answers to. There's not any problem that you don't already have the solution for. It's all here. It's just a matter of your access. So when you set that strong intention, it's like you're really willing yourself to cut through all the rest of the maze. Like you said, JJ, when you're rollerblading, all the noise kind of goes away. And then all of a sudden that wisdom that was already there waiting for you is able to access, or you're able to access it and pull it in.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we want to talk more about how your dreams can give you power. Obviously,
Yes.
we just talked about the problem solving
Mhm.
with the question versus the answer, but I know it's so much bigger than that. I know we've
Yes.
been talking about the information that's there. So for the person that's listening, and we are gonna take a break and thank our sponsors. But when we come back, I want you to address the person who is hearing this for the first time, who is now just like me, very interested and saying, well, what's the right step for me? And I know
Got
it's
it.
going to be individual based on the person, of course, but is it that do I have to start journaling? Do I have to write down all my dreams? How can I best do this sort of for a beginner?
Got it.
Okay. And then we will answer that right when we come back. Do you struggle with weight loss and body image? Are you turned off by most of the fitness industry because of the external focus on how you look? Me too. My latest book, The Invisible Fitness Formula, 5 Secrets to Release Weight and End Body Shame, is about connecting mind, body, and soul. Imagine discovering a proven formula for total wellness so you can finally release the weight and experience true happiness and deep fulfillment without starving or depriving yourself or working out 7 days a week. You can stick to a program and get results and enjoy it without calorie counting, logging your exercise, and falling off the wagon, and I can show you how. The Invisible Fitness Formula, 5 Secrets to Release Weight and End Body Shame, will address every single part of your body, mind, and soul. There's been something missing in the programs you've done in the past, and there still is something that's been sabotaging your efforts. Heal it, transform it, and release it. InvisibleFitness.com. Okay, Kelly, so I'm a beginner. I'm very curious about what power I can get from my dreams. How do I get started? What do I do?
Well, here's one way to start. and let's just look at nightmares. Any dream that is an unfinished dream is a nightmare. Consider that you are this infinitely powerful, infinitely genius creature that is unique, one of a kind. No one else is like you. No one else will ever be like you, except in your life experience, you've only gotten familiar with a teeny slice of that pie. And what would really help you in your life would be to get to know more of the pie, more of the incredible being that you are. So in nightmares, sometimes our nightmare characters are often aspects of ourselves that we don't recognize are us. So one way to be able to bring in some of that power is to know how to look at our nightmares or unpleasant dreams, or even dreams that are just slightly bizarre or strange. Look at everyone as if they're you. So I recommend that you use my fear formula with how to address a scary dream. So fear stands for face it, embrace it, ace it, and replace it. So, this is what I suggest that you do if you wake up from a scary dream and you really feel disempowered. This is how you get your power back. And I can give you an example of this in a second. You imagine that whatever the scary creature is in your dream, or whatever it is that's frightening you, that you, in your waking state, you're no longer sleeping, you're now awake, kind of in a quasi meditation state. You imagine that you can press the pause button on your dream and you have the ability to really look at it. Look at what is it that's chasing you? What is it that's scaring you? You shine a big bright light on this scary situation so that you're really looking at it. You're not running from it. And often just the process of just looking at it, facing it, starts to minimize the fear. You start to see that, oh, this isn't as scary as I thought, or oh, this is okay, I can handle this, or I'm bigger than this. And then the E for embrace it means that you get so big. Imagine that you become so big, your light becomes so big, and the problem or the scary thing becomes so small that you're big enough that you can embrace it as if it was an unruly child and you were the mother. And even though the child's unruly, you still love it. There's still a place for it. You're not going to kick it out of the house. You find a place for it. You embrace it. And then ace it means that you, by embracing it, you've learned that wow, there's something magical here. Even though this is an unruly aspect of myself, there's something that's teaching me. It's teaching me something. It's showing me a shortcoming of mine or a blind spot of mine, and really this is a blessing. So in turning it into a blessing, you start to ace the situation, meaning that you go from being scared of it to being no longer scared of it, becoming larger than it. And then the R for replace it means that by the time you're done with this process, this scary nemesis becomes an ally in disguise, becomes a blessing in disguise. Do we have time for me to give a quick example of a
Yes,
situation?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
one of the scariest dreams I ever had was about a guy kind of like the Robert De Niro character in Cape Fear. I see a lot of movies, so I dream movie metaphors kind of show up in my dreams. So a really scary character that was running around killing everybody. So this was like not just a subtle nightmare. This was like horrible. And I was hiding behind a bush praying that he wasn't going to kill me. And I woke myself up because I was so terrorized. He was just about to come get me. So I woke up from that dream going, okay, my God, what do I do with this? I mean, I'm the one that teaches people that every dream is a good dream, but yet I'm stumped. So I said, okay, face this dream. So really look at it. What's going on? And when I really looked at it and I pulled myself back away from the action and kind of got a bird's eye view, I saw that everyone in the dream, except for the murderer, had this kind of invisible umbilical cord that connected them to source. The murderer, the scary guy, had no connection at all. So I saw, wow, that's interesting. So this scary person is simply operating out of being disconnected. So in my embrace of him, I didn't just embrace him like hug him. I said, I'm going to imagine that I can reconnect him, reconnect his umbilical cord to source. So in my embracing the situation and owning it, I also redirected what happened in the dream, and I plugged him in my redirected version of the dream and saw that as soon as I plugged him in, he had these kind of in my mind, he had these contortions and kind of freaked out. And then all of a sudden, it was like he snapped back into being a normal, decent, version of himself, and the nightmare version of himself was gone. So then I was no longer scared. I was no longer afraid of him. So in my reimagined version of the dream, I didn't go up and say, "Hi, how are you?" But I got to see that he was showing me what happens to myself and everybody, because everyone in the dream is the dreamer. So he was showing me an aspect of myself that when I'm disconnected from source, it's pretty yucky. Nobody is just neutral when they're disconnected. So to me, it was this reaffirmation of how important it is to be connected to source, so that you're not just this spongy vampire in life, kind of taking energy from people. So in the end, the R for replace it, he was no longer this scary guy. He became sane in the dream, and I felt much more replugged in myself in the areas where I might have fallen asleep and gotten disconnected. So that's kind of a gnarly example of how to work with nightmares and get your power back from them. But that is one example.
No, that's amazing. And I actually might even eat some chocolate and try to induce a nightmare just so that I can do the work to see maybe it's a reoccurring issue that I have to work on. And then if I work on it, I can eat chocolate and not have a nightmare.
And it's not to say that those lovely, amazing dreams aren't worth completely. I mean, they give us our power too. The dreams where we're flying or making love or winning the lottery or getting a standing ovation by millions of people because we've done something really great. Those are amazing dreams that give us our power too. And I always tell people with those, you just you use that as a meditation prompt. Use that as a contemplative meditation that you can carry into your life until that energy from that positive dream becomes a normal set point for you, where you feel like you're flying when you walk into that business meeting, or you walk into the gym, or you walk into a situation that before would have intimidated you, because you've got that positive energy of the dream dripping all over you. You handle a challenging situation with so much more ease and class and grace. So there's so many different ways to use even the nightmares and the positive dreams to and the exciting happy dreams to help bring us back our power.
And of course, because it's a 30-minute show and we've barely, again, scratched that surface, I would want you to tell everybody, Kelly, how they can either work with you, buy your books, get involved to utilize this power, start using it, start honing it, start applying it, get help. Where can they find you?
Oh, they can go to ihadthestrangestdream.com. That's my personal website. You can find me also by my name, kellysullivanwalden.com. You can also go and take a deeper dive into dream work by going to dreamlifecoachtraining.com. You can also buy the book that just came out, Chicken Soup for the Soul. There's 101 inspirational stories about people whose extraordinary dreams and premonitions really transformed their lives. And reading stories like that will help to trigger your own. And it's good to read that book right before going to dreams, going to sleep, because it will definitely stimulate that part of you that wants to have something similar happen. So it's a good way to bookend your dreaming is by reading a good book.
And I also think that this is great work for anyone who's thinking about doing their own kind of sort of psychological work in preparation for maybe working with somebody, right? I mean, it can only help you to be more aware and to start to identify your own patterns, habits, feelings, and beliefs before then, you get to an end point, and then you decide to work with a professional to help you over the next transition.
Absolutely. So people can, if they want to work with one of my trained certified dream life coaches, they can contact me at kelly@dreamlifecoachtraining.com and put in the subject line that they'd like a free session with a certified coach, or they can just go and explore dream life coaching themselves. It's definitely, people that are taking the course are dreaming big time. It definitely seems to stimulate if not the dreaming, the dream recall, so that you're able to catch the dreams that might have been happening otherwise normally, but you just didn't catch it because you weren't paying attention. with this, you can.
Awesome. 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 Congratulations on your book and on everything. It's just awesome. I love this topic. I think that any way we can empower people to get more information, become more aware, access and utilize what's already existing within them, and how to connect with both that and anything outside of themselves is, again, what I'm all about, empowerment. So
Thank you, JJ, and thank you, and congratulations on all your great success too on your book and on all the great work that you're doing. It's such a pleasure to reconnect with you in this way. Thank you for having me.
it was an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you again for tuning in to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. If you're inspired and want more, come on over to fit2love.tv and check out our Freedom Fridays, or find us on iTunes. More at Fit to Love, physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness for the happy life you deserve.